everyone, welcome back to another episode of
WHOSAY!
So I'm Stacy, I'm a year 1 business major, and
I'm Jeevan, year 3 law student.
I'm Chen Yue, year 1 geography and economics major.
I'm Wyman, year 3 philosophy, politics, and economics major.
so has anything interesting been happening in your lives lately?
Well, I know that me and my friends have been fighting over concert tickets recently. It has been such a blood battle, I swear.
Fighting? How come?
Because it's so hard. It's such a struggle to get tickets nowadays because everybody is going to concerts nowadays. There's been a lot of big ticket events like Lady Gaga, like a lot of K-pop groups as well.
Oh wow, okay, yeah. But speaking of struggle, a lot of people actually go through that. And then they end up getting scammed. I read recently in an article between January 2023 to 2024, $1.1 million worth of money was lost in scams in such concert tickets. So yeah, you guys got to be careful, when you start getting a bit fighty for these concert tickets.
Definitely. We'll definitely be wary, especially purchasing from resale tickets.
Speaking of scams, have y'all still been receiving those scam calls from unknown numbers, and is this still something you've been experiencing a lot recently, or?
At this point, that's a part of life, randomly. If you don't get a call in 1 week, at least one of these calls in 1 week, do you have a phone number? Do you have your phone? Is your phone working,
I receive a lot of scam calls where the country code is like somewhere in India or in the Philippines, but when I pick it up, it says, "Hello, this is ICA. We are here to inquire about your immigration status." That's crazy.
Yeah, exactly. And then you just got to hang up on that, I actually used to work in a bank like before starting uni, and I got a phone call in from a customer at one point who had lost her money to a scam. It was a investment impersonation scam. So basically, they made her pump money into this fake investment scheme and then just didn't give it back to her after that. And she lost, at least half of her life savings.
How about you, Chen Yue?
Well, my story is there's a long ways to go. And speaking of which, I personally encountered with a government official impersonating scam, and that was really, really chilly. And I am still recovering from this horrible experience.
It's definitely something scary. I mean, you're year 1, right? So you're fresh into uni.
Yeah, and imagine come to a new country that you never visited before. Because I'm Chinese, I recently came to Singapore, and suddenly fall into some travel scams. That is not something you want to experience when you're having your final exams in year 1, first semester.
Oh, wow, okay, it's really a vulnerable period for you.
Yeah.
What kind of scam was it?
Actually, it's a government official impersonating scam that was conducted by a series of scammers. They impersonating at different characters. There are a lot of characters in there, They impersonate at 1 as IC officials, 2 as Chinese police department officer, and even 1 impersonating supposed prosecutor. That was really a circus of them.
Wow, so it sounds like the entire thing is really orchestrated and organized.
Yeah, it's an industry nowadays, The government impersonating scam. The scammers are really, really working hard into this.
Yeah, and I mean, they really put a lot of pressure on you, right?
Yeah.
It sounds like, you had a lot of people hounding you, a lot of different pretend offices.
Yeah.
Who were...
Actually, they try to scare me that I am involved somehow into a criminal case because one of my bank account is associated with a money laundering case, and they try to threaten me with arrest, with deportations, and they are threatening me if I don't follow their rules, they will do it immediately. And finally, they're very patient. They just scare me for like 2 weeks without asking for money. After 2 weeks, they start to ask me for a bail issued by a somehow court. There is also people pretending court officials, and they told me that I need to pay a bail for for 100,000 Singaporean dollars, which is the moment they read it up, the moment I start to feel really suspicious about it.
Right. So at least you felt suspicious about it. But I mean, it really shows like these guys really know how to target your vulnerabilities. They know how to
Yeah.
find it. And I mean, this whole thing is just orchestrated to just make him even more vulnerable. I mean, the whole like 2 week saga of it probably would have,
Yeah,
just
it's
kept him.
like 2 weeks in hell. Like, they actually, a lot of people may think that scams are something that only stupid people fall into it, or something that only people with really suspicious troubles may encounter. But actually, no. Scam is something that everybody could fall into because they deliberately design the trap for you based on your information. So everybody has a trap designed for them. You're just not encountering your type of trap. Like before they scam you, they first gather a piles of information about you, and they especially target those people who is most vulnerable into this case, like year one international students, like students who are not familiar with Singapore and the scammer problem here, student who does not familiar with campus life and don't have friends and family with them. Especially they target those people and playing with patience, actually.
Just now you said that these scammers actually hold a lot of information on you, right?
Yeah.
So do you happen to know that what kind of information did they threaten you with? Like, did they tell you that, oh, I have your bank account number, I have your IC numbers, or was it something similar, or did they try to extort this information from you?
The scammers show me a arrest warrant issued by a supposed court. There is my photograph on them. That is exactly my photo on my Chinese ID card, my full card number, and a lot of things about me. There is also some other people's name. They are basically fabricated list on that. So actually, when you saw your face, your mugshot on an arrest warrant, that is a time you start to panic.
Right. But it sounds like they had this information from back home, like in China,
Yeah.
right?
I
So-
think they stole my information long ago. They just planned for it. And they know almost everything about me, where I attend my high school, where I go college, and my family, who's my mom, who's my dad, everything. So they have these kind of information, which is sufficient for them to try to convince me they are government officials.
Were you convinced for a while, or
Frankly, for a while, I'm half convinced, or I feel like I have no other wise things to do except following their orders for a while, because like they really have a lot of things with them. And even if a real government official tried to reach out to me in these cases, he wouldn't have more information to show.
So it sounds like they really, catered all of the information gathering just to target him specifically. But whenever I get these phone calls or realize I'm at risk of being scammed, it's usually a very cold reach out. So it's a bit of the other way around. I realize that a lot of us also face, which I feel is also just as scary because it's exactly the same thing that they do. The MO is exactly the same, where they just want to make you vulnerable and then get that information out of you and push you to do something that you don't want to do. Has it happened with you that you've been in a position where at that information gathering stage where you don't want you're not you don't realize actually what you're doing and the information that you're giving out? Has that ever happened with you?
oh, I think for when I experienced like the bank scam, I thought that they were asking about my info to like verify that they were talking to the correct person, because that's how they like structured the conversation. But then when I went to the bank and when I went down to the physical bank to check whether this whole transaction was real, they said that if a bank calls you, they should know your information beforehand. So they shouldn't be asking you to give your IC details to verify, which now that I hear your story, it's a bit interesting because the bank told me that they should know, the caller should already know stuff about me, but then your scammers already did know these things.
Yeah.
There is different type of scams, small scams and big ones. Like those small ones, they're just trying to scam you for a small amount of money or try to grab a chance that is not likely to happen. But for those big ones, they're really targeted on you. They're designed and so much people, so much manpower put in this case just to scam a fortune out of me. So it may be easy for you to avoid a lot of scam that happens in your life, but it may not be so easy for you to escape from a trap that is designed for you.
Yeah, so it is quite a scary, and it's definitely an experience that you can't really prepare for because it hits you out of nowhere. So, and I can imagine it will make a person feel quite awful. So how did you feel actually when you were going through that?
Well, actually, in that process, it was really, really stressful. Like, they try to accelerate your stress. They try to mentally collapse you, basically. When you are mentally collapsed, you do everything they want. For my case, luckily, because the wisest thing I do in this whole scam is that I don't put money in my bank account. I don't really have money with me. So they can't actually scam me, but they are finding out other ways. We're talking about it later. Like the ways that they are putting me in so much stress is that they ban my social. They say that I should delete all my social accounts. That actually, this is a point where the things get to. They just utilize the trust we put in the government officials. They just utilize the way that we usually have faith in those people in charge, and they try to stress me with they ask me to open a Zoom video with them, a Zoom meeting, and open it 24/7 actually. Like they just monitor my room. I should have to turn my camera on for a whole day when I'm studying, when I was sleeping. Only time I could get with it was I'm showering or go to toilet, I can get with that camera. The other time they're just watching me. And per 3 hours per day, I have to make a report about what I'm doing, and I cannot leave the room without their permission. Like I'm going to attend a class, permission. I'm going to eat a lunch, permission. Everything I do requires some permission from these people. So in this case, you are mentally more passive and vulnerable. Like when your every action is tracked, monitored, and camered by some other people who is not really friendly with you, that is the time you really feel panic, helpless, and that you can't reach anybody in this case you're scammed because they try to convince you that all your social media channels are being monitored.
Okay, as you mentioned just now, you did realize that it was a scam in the end. So what was the turning point that made you went from believing these figures of authority to start questioning them?
Well, it's just like every football match. When you have red flags, a red flag must be followed with a series of yellow flags. The first yellow flag that I've raised is the legal term they use in those falsified, fabricated documents are not consistent with those that the Chinese officials really use. It looks weird. And the second, the greater yellow flag in this case is that they are trying to talk about money. That is the most suspicious point. Like, if they're not talking about money, you feel like they have no reason to scam you if they're not earning something. But if they start to talk about money, you will raise your alarm and feel really suspicious about this. And they talk about money only 2 weeks into the scam after threatening me again and again and tries to like threaten me with arrest and scare me out. They finally take out the claim that I need to pay a bail to bail me out. And the amount is right in Singaporean dollars. That is suspicious enough. Like if it's a Chinese court, any kind of fine, ransom, bail should be paid in CNY. That is more makes sense. And it's Singaporean dollars, doesn't make sense. And the final red flag of that is that they are trying to tell me that I must use Singaporean bank account. Like they try to fabricate like because this case is linked to some Singaporean banks, and so it's better for me to use a Singaporean bank account. That is the point I really what they're trying to do, because Singapore, compared to China mainland, has more financial flexibility, and it's more easy to transact huge amount of money. And when I told them that I don't have money in my account, they try to ask me to actually, they try to teach me how to scam money from my parent. That is really like hilarious. Like they're trying to tell me that because this case is confidential somehow, so I can't directly tell my parent that I'm involved in some case, but so I should try a way to scam my parents the money and hand it to them. And they actually give out a lot of ideas, like I should use like financial statements or some other excuses to scam money from my parents. And I really feel like this is never something that a Chinese official following the law would ask me to do. So I reached out for some reliable personnel and I asked for their advice. I'm doing this out of really fear, because I still fear that there's a possibility that they are real government officials and the case is confidential. But so I try to reach in a way that is more, in my perspective, unlikely to be discovered. And finally, after discussion with that personnel, we all agree that there is undeniable opportunity that this is a scam.
So just now you also mentioned reliable personnel, right? Did you come to Singapore alone? So how did you find a person that is reliable here in Singapore? Did you go to authorities such as like the Chinese embassy, or did you rely on networks like your friends here? So how did you find a support system, given that you've only been here for not very long?
Actually, I first start my conversation with a reliable personnel online in China. Like this, another thing I recommend that new fresh international student to do is that I have an SOS message implicitly for some of my trusted friends and families. Like it looks just like very ordinary talks, but when I mention that, immediately they know I'm in serious trouble. So through this way, I find out some methods to connect to them, and they advise me and we discuss about this matter, and we come to the conclusion that there's a high chance that this could be some scam. And I reach out for the police, Singaporean police. I go to the police station, I file a case, and they told me that if I was involved in any criminal matters, no matter what, the police will directly come to me rather than make a video calls or calling me or send me mails. They will just come to me in person. So any people with such methods is likely to be a scam.
Honestly, listening to that entire anecdote, I mean, I think it's quite brave that you have the courage to come out and talk about it and relive it with us. And honestly, it's a bit infuriating if you think about it, because they're looking at you. You're a young student. You've come out into the world. You're trying to find your footing, and then that's where they strike you. You know, that's where they come in, and they just want to knock you back off your feet, even to the point of trying to turn you against your parents, trying to pull you away from your support system. You know, I think that's just messed up, honestly. But really, that's their entire MO. You know, it's not just students. They do it even with working adults. Like the bank scam victim that I told you about, she was involved in an investment scam where she'd gotten in touch with someone who told her about this investment scheme, and it even had a whole website dedicated to it and whatsoever. She transferred, I think, about $10,000 to this particular bank account of this person. That's the first yellow flag that she overlooked, and it reflected on that website. So she thought it was a safe thing, that this guy was just a middleman trying to help her out. So they have all these ways of making you overlook the yellow flags. So that was the first yellow flag for her. Then immediately it showed, after a week, oh, the 10K has become 20K, market's really booming right now, take advantage of it, you want to put your money in. So then she put another 20K, another 30K in, and then, oh, whoa, it's become 50, 70, 80K, it's, whoa, I'm getting all this money just because I trusted this guy and he's doing so much for me. So, and then all of a sudden, he goes quiet on her. So now she's vulnerable. She's lost half of her life savings. She wants to get it back. So what does he do? He says, you know what, we've got this system that we can't override. You have to put in a little bit of money if you want the transaction to come back out. There needs to be that two-way thing. So at that point, she's vulnerable. She's like, I want to get my money back. Okay, this is going to work. Let me do it. And she puts it in again. I mean, this guy has gone quiet on you. He ghosted you after taking your money. You should know that this guy he's not the guy who's going to be honest with you, and he's not going to give you the additional 5, 10K that you're putting in. But she still fell for it. And once again, he ghosted her after that. And it's only after that she called the bank. So they have these ways of psychoing you, if you will, to make you overlook the yellow flags that you yourself identify. And I feel like that was what is going on with you.
Yeah.
They're so almost trained in this art form, sinister art form, I'd call it, which is really awful. And I can't imagine how you must have felt at that point.
Yes, that is what really happened. They try to avoid these yellow flags, try to avoid your defense system, deprive yourself from your help, from your assistance, and isolate you at last. I have to say that these scammers are well trained and they must learn a lot about philosophy. And I have to warn now in this case that the monetary loss is not the worst things that you can be deprived from such serious scam. There is news report that Chinese female student studying Malaysia, when he comes to Malaysia for only 4 days, he encounters such a scam. And because she cannot hold such pressure, miserably she suicide. And that is something that is irreversible, and it's much worse than monetary loss. Another thing that could be worse than monetary loss is that there has been report that some of the scammers even want to scam you to go out of Singapore or any place that you live to some design place for them. Like they're trying to tell you that you have to go there to make a report, you have to go there to serve as a witness or something. They try to lure you out for where you live to a place that you don't know, like maybe in Thailand, in Malaysia, some places that they may have chance to hijack you, to traffic you into some scam parks. That is far worse. So just be warned about that. Never go any place that any people instructed you to.
Yeah, I think what's interesting is that all these like yellow flags that we're talking about and that we're seeing is like quite obvious in hindsight that they're yellow flags. And they're once we tell the stories, it's like it's ridiculous. Like why will I fall for that? But then once we're in the moment and we're like being the scam victim, I think based on these stories, you know, the scammers prey on our emotions and make us feel more and more vulnerable that we actually fall for it and we don't see that they're yellow flags in the moment. So I think
Exactly.
that's something really concerning, and
Yeah.
how scammers work is very
And
interesting.
Honestly, everyone goes through it. You know, no matter what age group you are at, student, older working adult, elderly as well, they know exactly how to make you overlook these yellow flags for, you know, depending on who you are in life, where you are in life, and yeah, it's so attuned to how you are that they adjust their method of working.
Yeah, actually, it's not about how smart you are. A lot of people think that, like, I'm smart, only stupid will be scammed. It's a common mindset. But if you are falling into this case, your mind will be so seriously disrupted and you'll be in the chaos that you cannot divert this correct version of the view. You cannot think wisely and make wise decisions. It's not really about how smart you are or how can you excel in your academic path. Like, even if in the process of being scammed, so many weeks into that scam, I still study for my final exam and I even get A's in economics. So it's not really about how you can do well in your academic of your test papers or not. You can still do well in your test paper even meanwhile being scammed. So I never be ashamed about being scammed. It's not about that you're not capable to face challenges or you are stupid or you are such a weak person. No, it's not about that. Everybody can be a victim and it has nothing to do with you. Don't blame yourself on what you're suffering. Blame the people who try to make you into that suffering.
Definitely. Falling for scams is definitely never a reflection of your own personal shortcomings, but it's rather how these scammers leverage a moment of weakness from you. But I feel like something that people don't really talk about is how do they recover from such traumatic experiences, right? So, have you been recovering well in the aftermath of your experiences?
Well, this is a long process. Like, at first, even if going out from the scam, I feel really insecure. Like, my room was monitored for so long, and every action for me is recorded. And they even have a lot of information about me now, these scammers. Although they failed to scam me, but a lot of information has been leaked. And the fact that they have their presence in Singapore is really something that disturbed me. Like, if I didn't mention before, they actually sent a real person into NUS and to the foyer of my dormitory. It's actually, I live in PGP actually, to the dormitory, to the foyer of PGP, and hand me over some falsified, fabricated documents. And their presence in Singapore and the fear that they know where I live is really disturbing. After the scam was conducted, I immediately flee my apartment and live in a hotel for a week. Like, I don't even dare to go back to that nightmare, that room I was stuck in for so long. And after that, the winter vacation came, I immediately flee Singapore back to my home and get support from my families, have a vacation somewhere, and tries to let myself feel better. And in the coming new semester, which is this semester, through reflection, I find out the point that I was so vulnerable. Why? Because I don't have any friends or trusted people here. If I do have some, I could talk to them the moment I get scammed, talking to them secretly, personally, and maybe we could figure out this is a scam much earlier with the help of others. So I start to make friends and to engage with more social activities that makes me feel less lonely and much better off.
It's actually quite nice to see that you've taken proactive measures to try to recover from this traumatic experience. So to kind of sum up, like you kind of reached out to your own support network and expanded on your own support network to try to regain the confidence to live life again. So, but for people who may not have that privilege, please do also reach out to trusted sources in NUS. For example, we have peer student support system. We also, for international students especially, you could also reach out to the Office of Student Affairs. They might be able to help you and connect you with some other trusted personnel whenever you are in moments of distress. So I really commend you for your bravery and how you've managed to spring back into the whole situation.
Yeah, no, I think it's a good guiding stone for everyone who's going through something like this, because even before reaching that stage of getting scammed, there is a point where you're suspicious that you might be getting scammed, and even at that point, it's not too late or not too early even to look for help. At any point that you suspect that what's going on is a bit shady or might not be proper authority. Like I think Stacy, that's what you did, right? That's when you reached out to, or you went to the actual bank to verify what was going on.
Yeah, like I called up some family members when I wasn't sure, and then I started searching online also for similar phone calls or what are the proper bank proceedings. And then I felt a bit unsure still, so I went down to the bank. And I think this was like in the middle of being scammed when I like dropped the phone call and I was like, okay, let me like cut this short and try to see what I can do. So I think it's like any point, like you were saying, any point within the whole process, like at the start or even after it happened, like it's always a good time to like reach out to people that you can trust.
Yeah, exactly. So, and not just people that you can trust, like identify who are proper people that you should consult about this. Like, you knew, okay, your first protocol was your family, but after that, you went to the bank. You looked for a place where you knew people definitely would be reliable, and I think that's what you did as well. So that's the best option to take. Just verify it, make sure that you yourself are sure that whatever you're going through is legitimate and not identify the signs, don't look past it. That's very important, and it's not it's nothing to be ashamed of to seek that verification and that guidance early on. But then also there are people who would not realize it because these scammers just know how to get you out of that mindset, of suspicion, and pull you in, reel you in even more, and you only realize after you've been scammed that, whoa, something's gone very wrong. So even at that point, there's no shame in admitting that you made a mistake. It's always prudent to seek help, because I think, like you mentioned, some of your peers from your country who went overseas ended up taking their lives because they were scammed. If you think about it, maybe in that moment they were in despair. They just didn't know what else to do. They felt like everything was just done over for them. And even honestly, even the lady that I spoke with from the bank, on the phone with her, she sounded like she'd given up all hope on life. And I spent a good chunk of that phone call telling her, no, it's fine. You can earn that money back. Just live your life. Speak to a friend right now. You're alone right now. That's why you're feeling awful. So support systems at that point are also crucial and nothing to be ashamed of in looking for. So I think, for students in NUS, a good port of call would be the university counseling services and the university services.
There's also an NUS like hotline where you can call whenever you need help. So did you actually like reach out to NUS during your scam period, or?
After file my police report, and I reached to the NUS School Security Office, and I report the case to NUS Security too. And I told them that somebody has come into NUS, some exact moment, some time, and the location it happens, and that makes them able to track his presence by using monitor system. And I feel like the NUS security is really helpful. Like they get experience with this kind of scam. There are already a dozen of these scam happen, and I feel like I'm relatively the lucky one that some people really be scammed out of money, like there has been amounts for like 100,000, 200,000. That is really a lot, and it really will makes you feel so unwell if you're scammed for such a fortune. And another thing that I should recommend those people who are suspicious of themselves being scammed to do is that just rephrase the whole situation. This like the scammer are still improving on their skills of scamming, and there is a lot of ways that they could persuade you. But hold on, there is something that is wrong from the root, and you must find that. The root, what should be the root is that no matter what happens, you should be entitled to speak to trust ones. No matter what happens, you should be entitled to report to the authority. Don't let those fake stories like confidential case, no leak, and even they mention criminal charges against those who leak the secret. Don't let those stories deceive you. It's just impossible. Even in this case, if some people ask you to do this, it's illegal at first. So just don't hesitate to reach out to the people you trust and to the authority of Singapore, from NUS school security system to the police, and to if you're an international student, to your home embassy. Everywhere you can rely on, just go for it. Don't be deceived by the illusions.
Yeah, I think one of the things I realized as a law student is these authorities that exist, the government bodies, the police, etc., they all exist not to control you and tell you what to do. They exist just to manage your rights. So when you look at it from that frame, then you realize that, okay, these guys are there to help me figure out what my best way forward is. They're not there to punish me, or they're not a tool for the government to use to suppress me, and that sort of thing. So it's very important to understand that although the trust in public officials is what's taken advantage of, the trust in public officials exists for a reason as well. So look for the proper forum to exercise that trust, which going to the embassy, like you mentioned, or like you went directly to a bank branch, a proper location where the actual officers who can assist you are there. So avail yourselves of these channels. I think there's no shame in that at all.
Yeah, the important thing is that you should meet people in person. Those people you meet in person cannot be scammers. Anyway, like you go to the embassy, the staff in embassy cannot be scammers. You walk to the police stations, the people in police station, the people in NUS security office, they cannot be scammers. So they are the people you can take trust in. Any people online, no matter in what form, no matter they try to deceive you who they are and what they're doing, they can be scammers, and there's a high chance they are scammers. First, disbelieve, and even if they try to convince you, don't really believe in them. Only believe in the thing that you can be 100% sure.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that also applies for the big ticket items, right? The concerts that we were looking at. You know, it's at that point everyone's rushing for it. You want that deal, you want that concert because it's tickets are in limited supply. But you know, when you get that opportunity, still be cautious, still be careful, take a step back, make sure it's all legitimate. You know, find that proper forum to ensure that what you're getting is what you think you're getting. Or actually, another option is to just not pay until you get the ticket. Don't give the money up front. You know, see the ticket first and then pay after that.
How about telling them that I go to the concert first? After I go to the concert, I pay you the money.
Whoa, you're scamming them back.
Another tip, actually, aside from being cautious and taking a step back, maybe you should also know where to draw your boundaries, when to say no, when you feel a bit suspicious, or when you think that this might be a scam, or this is like something that I'm not very comfortable doing. Maybe it's not a scam yet, but you're just not comfortable anymore. It's okay to say no to like calls or inquiries or things like that.
Yeah, exactly. And it's, you know, on the whole, I think it's better to not have the concert ticket than to lose your money.
The scammers nowadays, they're trying to first give you small benefits to lure you out, or try to deceive you with the illusion of hope, something like this. So just be cautious. Don't be triggered by a small amount of benefits, or don't be lured into this case by chasing after such small bonus.
Yeah, I think that just makes it a lot harder to identify that it is a scam, you know. That's how they kind of reel you in. So, and I think for these types of cases, it's very good that the Singapore government has recently come up with the scam hotline, where you can just call in and you can ask, look, I've got this, you know, scheme that I'm buying into, or this ticket that I'm buying. Can you check if this is a scam for me? And they will. You know, there's no shame in that. You know, I think with how big and unfortunate industry scam is becoming, and how much people are losing to it, there is really no shame in just trying to seek that help at any point in time. And I think the scam hotline is a really good avenue to do that as well.
Like we've been talking about, yellow flags that we could see about when encountering scams, and also that there's no shame in seeking help, and there's no shame in being scammed in the first place. And then there's always areas we could reach out to, like actual government officials or proper institutions that we can physically go down to, or hotlines that we can call both in NUS and, like the national anti-scam hotlines. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think for this episode as well, we want people to be aware, but also be open to the fact that we as students are quite vulnerable to being scammed. You know, in many different forum. It could be, you know, like in what happened in your case, or ticketed events, or bank scams, impersonation scams. It happens at any step of the way of going into life and studying. So I think it's good to talk about this and have everyone be aware that these things happen, but it's okay, and also to learn from each other. So I think one thing I'd encourage is for everyone to perhaps share this episode, and also perhaps drop some comments in the comment section as to things that you've experienced or that your friends have experienced, so that we can all learn from each other and be more aware, and overall stay more vigilant to such scams and such risks.
Yeah, I think that once we build this type of community where everyone's aware about scams and everyone's open about talking about them, it also gives the scammers a bit of less power, because we're a bit stronger, as their victims are more stronger to fight against them.
Exactly. That's a good point, because all of their victims are generally isolated. They've never scammed a whole group before.
Oh, Jeevan, just now you mentioned the anti-scam hotline. So if you're not sure who to call, their number is 1799. Alternatively, if you are a resident on campus, you can reach out to your residential masters, your residential fellows, or otherwise, if you're not a resident and you stay off campus, you could also reach out to campus hotlines. They have security hotlines who will be able to guide you through the rough patches that you are going through. Alternatively, if you are also an international student, you can reach out to the Office of Student Affairs, and they will be able to guide you to the relevant authorities or the relevant resources to help you go through whatever you're going.
Thank you, Wyman, for sharing these tips. And I think with that, it's a good way to wrap up this episode. Thank you so much for tuning in to this episode of WHOSAY. And do follow us on our socials to keep up with our next episodes. We hope to see you again soon. Bye!